Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about FlightSim Expo 2023 and what an absolutely amazing experience the entire event was. Everything from the software and hardware to the incredibly awesome people that I got to meet, including some of you. Stick around, guys. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides as well as any future guides that come along down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below, and thank you to all of my current subscribers. All right, guys, so first off, I want to thank so many of you who actually made it to the expo and were shouting out for me, Overkill, is that you, Overkill? It was so great to meet you guys in person. It was such an awesome and heartwarming experience. I wanted to make sure to get that thank you out to you guys first. It was absolutely incredible, as was meeting so many of the developers, both software and hardware side, and getting to try out some of the new tech. And we're going to start out, guys, by talking about some of the key points of this event, and that's going to start us out with Thrustmaster. Thrustmaster launched their Viper configuration, the TCS, and this thing is slick, you guys. This was an incredible configuration, and it's nice to see them finally bouncing back in the combat aspect. We've seen, you know, their yoke and their throttle that we saw from before, from the Boeing configuration that we saw last year or the year before that, I believe it was. This new F-16 TCS, guys, is absolutely incredible. It's everything from the armament panel, also as well as the throttle itself. The throttle itself had such an incredible smooth action to it. It also has the lift gates for the afterburners, the movable detents, as well as tension adjustment. So they've really stepped it up here with this new F-16 grip. The F-16 throttle grip itself was spot on, requiring absolutely no configuration whatsoever in order to make it work with DCS, meaning that if you plug it into DCS, it is plug and play. All of your key bindings are already there. Now, you guys can purchase either the entire set that comes with the panel before, has the control panel. Sorry, I said armament panel earlier. That's not correct. But it comes with the control panel down below, or you can get it with just the throttle. It's entirely up to you. And again, the throttle detents are interchangeable, or I should say adjustable, if you will. But as you guys saw right there, I actually had to lift up like you did in the real F-16 to put it into afterburner. You have to do the same thing if you're going from idle cutoff. You have to actually lift it up over the gate in order to get it into the actual idle position, much like the real aircraft. The feeling was dead on. It was such a cool experience, you guys. It felt perfectly in the hands. Everything is easily accessible, just like in the real aircraft. And this was a ton of fun flying it around. They had a really awesome configuration here, and then they had a pre-flight in DCS where you went up against, I believe it was a MiG-25. So easy target for the F-16, but still a ton of fun to battle it out. I had a really great time talking with the guys over at Thrustmaster. They're all really, really nice people. And this was an incredible experience to check this out. So I wanted to make sure that this hit up first, because it is nice seeing the competition starting to roll back in. Right now, we've only had really WinWing, and then, of course, the Virpil products. We haven't seen much from Thrustmaster in the combat arena in quite a while. So they definitely came back with a major punch with this particular set. And I highly recommend it, you guys. Stay tuned. I'm going to see what I can do to get my hands on a copy of it and hopefully be able to give you guys my impression after flying for a few hours. But I can tell you, after about only 10 minutes of using it, I was very thoroughly impressed. Really liked the action that the throttle brought. The axis movement was very, very awesome, and it had whatever tension they had configured it with was absolutely fantastic. It felt great. All the linkages and the lift action that came from the detent was absolutely spot on. I had no issues, didn't feel any wiggling or wobbling, any kind of quote unquote cheapness, if you will. Everything was just absolutely beautiful. And again, that is the Thrustmaster TCS F-16 Viper grip. The next item that caught my attention, you guys, and we've actually seen this before on the channel with a news article, and that was the Yawman. The Yawman is essentially a game controller, as you can see here, very similar to, well, kind of similar to something like an Xbox 360 controller, but is designed from the ground up specifically and solely for the purpose of flight simulation. And initially, I was in a position where I was very skeptical about this. I told you guys about this when I first did the report on the news article when it was first announced. I gotta tell you, this thing blew me away and shocked the you-know-what out of me. I was not anticipating the reaction that I felt for this particular item. It was very, very well designed. It's very ergonomical and extremely ideal for someone who wants to, say, do a flight simulator on the go. I would say the target audience for someone like this is either A, you just do not have the room for a full HOTAS setup, whether that be HOTAS or yoke and throttle, however it may be, you don't have the room for it. Or speaking to a buddy of mine who you'll actually see in the video here in a minute, who has his flight sim rig is upstairs in the attic, and he doesn't, maybe you're the type of person who doesn't want to be away from the family, so you bring your laptop downstairs and you want to be able to still fly but still be near everybody. So this is a ton of really good applications. Now let's talk about the ergonomics of it and what the things that I was really impressed with. When I first did the I can't really call it a review, I guess my first thoughts when I read about it, I was really concerned about it because, I mean, how much can you cram into an Xbox size controller and still have it be ergonomic and have it still feel good in the hands? And these guys nailed it. And one of the things that I don't have a screenshot of, but he actually showed me the progression and how, from his first unit to what is about to be into production. And there's been some very serious updates to it. And I was extremely impressed with how well everything functioned on it. The overall yoke control and things like that. You guys can see here, I'm sort of flying a little rough, and that's just lack of that muscle memory and familiarization of that kind of product. However, one of the things that was really cool is the rudder axis down where your triggers would be are actually a single axis. So as you depress one, the other one comes out and extends, much like you would feel with your feet. The overall configuration of the hats and everything like that were laid out so nicely, again, much like an Xbox controller, but everything just seemed to work really well. The throttle axis, which is the slider that you guys can see right there on the screen right now, was laid out just absolutely perfect, and it's just long enough where you can truly feel like you're adding enough power. Now, there's actually two of those. This is Catheta here, my friend, running it, and there's actually two axes side by side. There's two pull down or pull out axes that you guys can see there in the middle of it. You got the trim wheel, you've got the 6-pack that they call it, which is those 6 buttons that are primarily used for like autopilot functionality, as well as a bunch of pre-programmed key combinations that will do various things. So they've really done a great job in implementing a full flight simulation configuration into something that fits in your hand, which obviously, again, the biggest benefits here are going to be space consumption or lack thereof, and then portability. So this is really going to be a key factor to anyone who's always on the move and wants to take their flight simulation with them. Or again, as I stated, maybe you're just limited on space, or again, like my friend Catheta here, wanted to, be able to be out with the family and not go upstairs and lock himself away into the full cockpit. So really, really impressed with the configuration of it, really, really impressed with the overall feel of it and the functionality. They really took a lot of time to try to cram as much into this controller comfortably. That's the kicker. They crammed a lot into it comfortably while keeping it the form factor where it needed to be an effective hand controller. So again, that is the Yaw Man, you guys. This will be releasing on the market, I believe, very, very soon. Make sure that you guys stay tuned for that if that is a product you guys are interested in. I have spoken with the developer, and it sounds like we are going to be getting a review copy. So as soon as I have more information on that, you guys will be made aware. Next up here, we have some very interesting tech that we want to talk over briefly, and that is from Brilliant. I hope I said that right. And this is basically virtual reality at your desktop. They take any kind of display and you can actually create a 3-dimensional view of it, much like having the IMAX that you find at the theaters on your desktop for those who want to have the 3D experience but maybe don't want to rock virtual reality. This was a very interesting piece of tech. This is primarily used in enterprise level simulations, and the company is looking to start making their way into the general consumer market. It was a very interesting feeling, and quite frankly, I don't know how I feel about it yet. It was still very, very cool, but I wasn't sure how to interpret it. And I think that's because I come from the experience of virtual reality. It was definitely something that I can see moving its way into the consumer market at some point. However, I will tell you that the price point for it was extremely high, in the multiple thousands of dollars for that display that we are showing here, which I believe was a 40-inch display, if memory serves. I could be mistaken on that dimension. However, I can tell you that, again, it was very, very expensive. I believe this unit that we were looking at here was right around $6,000. So obviously in the early stages of reaching the consumer market, and that certainly is something that would not reach the consumer price point, in my personal opinion, at this time. But if you are an enterprise level corporation and you're looking for some sort of three-dimensional IMAX display, again, that is Brillion, is what they believe is what they are called. That is BRELYON.com. If you guys are interested in taking a further look at this very interesting tech. Next up here, I was able to finally get my hands on the Thrustmaster Boeing yoke. And there were some good parts about it, and there were some parts that I was not crazy about at all. So I'm going to give you guys a real quick rundown of what I liked and what I disliked about the whole product. From a like standpoint, I really liked the ergonomic feel of the actual yoke itself. I really do hope that there is a way to adjust the tension. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at that. If there's a way to adjust the forward and aft tension, basically your lift and descent tension on it, that would be absolutely fantastic. However, everything else I found to be a bit lacking. I did not like the throttle axis, and I did not like the landing gear switch. They felt very cheaply made, unfortunately, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is the tactile feel was very plasticky. It didn't feel like it had any kind of axis. Didn't feel like it was a really good rotation of the or actuation of the specific control. The buttons that were up on the yoke, again, were very plasticky feeling, very lacking in that sort of high quality depression that you would expect to feel from a product such as, from a developer such as Thrustmaster. Again, however, the forward and aft action, although I wanted to increase the tension, still felt very, very nice, very, very smooth, as well as the rotation on the yoke, the left and right axis, was also very, very nice. So just keep that in mind. Again, a real quick review. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I did want you guys to understand what my initial thoughts on the product were. The final piece of hardware I want to discuss for today's video is the Simeonic force feedback yoke. This was the first time that I've ever tried anything force feedback with any kind of flight simulator, so this was quite an interesting experience. Now, it took me a second to sort of figure out what was going on here. They had the rudder axis bound to the yoke, and I was unaware of that, so forgive the incredible, horrible run down the runway there. But I gotta tell you, this was not exactly what I was anticipating when it came to my first experience with force feedback. I'm not sure how I feel about it. The product itself was absolutely solid. I had no issues with the product itself. It felt very, very good in the hands. All of the buttons and switches had a very great tactile feel to it. There was no dead zone in the actuation of the yoke itself. Everything was responsive as you would expect to feel. And I could feel some drag, especially on the lift axis as I was trying to pull the elevators up. I could feel them wanting to come back down. So you definitely had that overall experience of feeling what it meant to actually have to fight the airflow going over the control surfaces of the aircraft. And the same thing was with the ailerons. But I actually found myself struggling to control the aircraft. Now, does that mean that the product is a failure and just it's absolute garbage? No, I think it actually means the exact opposite. I think that it was a real eye-opener to what it would mean to have that kind of control at your fingertips and be able to truly experience some, as best as a simulation can provide, of the true real-world impact from the air flying over the control surfaces and that drag and that, again, force feedback that you would feel in the real aircraft. I just don't know how I felt about it coming from such a long-standing point of simulation experience, coming into a situation where I literally was sort of out of my element in the beginning of this and feeling like, wow, maybe I have no business using any kind of flight simulator. But this was an overall absolutely cool experience. It was neat to see this kind of technology implemented in flight simulation. It was really cool to be able to get my hands on it. Guys, if you ever have the chance to go to a FlightSim Expo, I highly recommend it. All of the developers that I spoke with were just like Simeonic here, were incredibly informative, and they were absolutely there to help and wanted to really showcase their experience. Now, obviously, yes, they're there to make money, of course. But the fact that they weren't holding anything back and they were just trying to get people in the seat and to feel what their products were like, it was quite an awesome experience. Going over through the approach, you guys can see I got very, very low, very, very fast. And again, it's because I wasn't used to having to maintain that. It wasn't even maintained. It was the constant adjustment that was required with the force feedback. I mean, you guys can see how much I'm using the yoke here. I don't ever do that with any kind of other simulation hardware. I mean, you guys look, I bounced this thing. And when I bounced it, the controller absolutely responded to the bounce. It was definitely one of my more embarrassing moments in flight simulation. But it was a very, very neat experience, you guys. And if you guys have the chance to check them out, again, that's Simeonic. You can just go to simeonic.com and you guys will see what their products are all about. It was an incredible, incredible experience. All right, so the last segment that I want to address here on this particular video, you guys, trust me, there's a lot more to come, but I want to give a big shout out to Ivan Sky. Ivan Sky has a YouTube channel. I will have a link to it down in the description below, you guys. Make sure that you guys give him some subscribes, some likes. Check out his channel. He's got some great tutorials on how to use Air Manager as well as other configurations with his sim. He's also done an amazing amount of work at FlightSim Expo 2023, doing a bunch of interviews with various developers, testers, seminar providers, as well as real-world pilots that were there trying to share their information. He's just done an incredible job. He's a real-world pilot himself, you guys, so he's got some very, very helpful information to bring to the community, and it was an absolute pleasure to talk to him. I was really, really humbled when he asked if he could do an interview with me. He's also a subscriber of Overkill Simulations, and he's one of the ones who sort of went overkill when he heard my voice, and it was just cooler than snot being able to talk to him, and as well as all of the rest of you guys. To any of you guys who were there who did interact with me, thank you so much, you guys. It was such a humbling and very, very heartwarming experience to talk to all of you guys. Again, you guys, Ivan Sky, I will have a link to his YouTube channel down in the description below. There is still a lot more information that we have to talk about that was released during the FlightSim Expo 2023. Much of it you guys have probably already seen, but we're going to hit it on this channel as well. So stay tuned to the channel, you guys, if you are interested in my take on the information that is yet to come here and a bunch more releases. We have some very, very awesome stuff still coming. Something that I'm super, super excited about that's coming, you guys, is a new ATC program that I think is going to absolutely shake and break the mold of anything that we've had before. More to come on that, you guys. Super, super exciting information. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy. I'm very glad to be home, but again, thank you to everyone who showed up 2023 FlightSim Expo. It was a pleasure talking and working with all of you, and I look forward to the relationships that were hopefully built during this experience. Take care, you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.